Right now, in theaters, two horror films are playing side by side. One is the seventh installment of a 30-year slasher franchise. The other is a parody, and what it's spoofing is that exact same seventh installment. This spoof cost $30 million to make, and it opened at #1 at the box office. It achieved that by actively making fun of the very franchise that inspired it to exist in the first place. How does a parody financially outmaneuver the host it was born from? To answer that, you have to look at a single Stalin name. In 1995, an unknown screenwriter sold a horror script. It would go on to reinvent the slasher genre, but at the time it was sold under the title Scary Movie. The studio that bought the script, Dimension Films, decided to change the name before its release. They called it Scream. 4 years later, that same studio took their discarded title, Scary Movie, and bolted it directly onto a spoof of the massive hit Scream had become. This was a deliberate strategy. A producer later admitted that Dimension bought the spoof specifically because of its connection to the slasher film. From the start, the parody was a calculated financial weapon, wearing the killer's birth name. Fast forward to 2000. Both franchises released highly anticipated films into the same summer multiplex. On one side, you had Scream 3, backed by massive studio legacy and its original director. On the other side, a parody made for just $19 million. Here is the data from that clash. The parody earned $278 million, nearly doubling the original's $162 million. Notice this glowing ceiling line. That mark stood for 26 straight years. No original film could beat it. For over 2 decades, the single biggest financial success in this rivalry was the joke, not the target. It is easy to assume the parody eventually failed simply because the original slasher franchise went dormant for a decade. But the economics of a spoof run on a 2-engine model. It requires the cultural heat of its target and the continuity of its founding creators. That second engine failed in 2001. The original creators, the Wayans brothers, walked away, and the franchise lost its unique voice. You can track the commercial collapse that followed. By 2013, the fifth film bottomed out at $78 million and a dismal 4% critical score. Mapped on a graph of box office versus critical score, it exposes a complete inversion. Parody films plot far right for money, but extremely low on reviews. Original films cluster lower on revenue, but earn critical scores in the 80s. The rivalry was a perfect split. The audience paid the clown, but they praised the king. Then came the 2026 comeback. The original slasher franchise finally broke its own all-time record, crossing the $200 million mark. Yet, as this chart shows, even at its absolute peak, the original still could not top the parody's record from the year 2000. Meanwhile, the 2026 parody ran the exact same economic playbook from 26 years earlier. It used a $30 million budget to outdraw a massive $200 million blockbuster on opening weekend. The ultimate meta joke came from the reviewers. Critics claimed the new parody was actually a better version of the slasher than the official slasher sequel was. A 30-year cycle perfectly repeated itself. The snake had swallowed its tail. Looking at the final scoreboard, the parody holds the single film peak and the highest average. The original holds the massive $1.1 billion total fortune and all of the respect. A parody is inherently parasitic. It fades the moment it loses its cultural target or its original founders. The original franchise endured because a strong legacy brand can reinvent itself over decades. And in 2026, both franchises only survived their modern crises through a parallel action, returning to their original founding creators. The killer outlived the joke. He just never out-earned it.